The first drop of wine hit the paper at exactly 4:15 in the afternoon. My sister Vanessa didn't spill it. She poured it. Standing over my 6-year-old son, Ethan, she tilted her glass of Pinot Noir with a deliberate, almost bored precision. Ethan had spent 3 days on that watercolor painting, a landscape of the lake outside our parents' cabin, a gift he'd been working on for his grandfather. Now dark red liquid bled across the blue sky, soaking the paper, warping the edges, destroying everything. "He needs to learn that the world doesn't care about his little doodles," Vanessa said, her voice slurred but steady. "It's taking up space on the table. Honestly, Ethan needs to toughen up." She finished the glass and set it down on the wet paper with a thud, then looked around the room for approval. My Uncle Ray, lounging on the sofa, slapped his knee. "That's a $50 lesson right there, kid. Toughen up or get eaten." The laughter started then. It rippled through the cabin. Sharp, ugly. My mother chuckled nervously, desperate to keep the mood light. My cousin smirked. Ethan just froze, staring at the ruin of his painting, his small hands trembling over the table. "My name is Megan. I'm 32, and I'm a sous chef at one of the best restaurants in the city. Ethan's father left when our son was 2. Another story entirely. So it's always been just the 2 of us. This is the story of how I stopped being the family doormat and burned down 30 years of silence. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. I didn't scream. I didn't rush to wipe up the wine. For the first few seconds, I didn't even breathe. I just watched my son. Ethan didn't make a sound. His shoulders shook, his face turned a mottled red, but he didn't cry out. He bit his lip until it turned white, physically shrinking into his chair, trying to make himself small enough to disappear. He wasn't looking for comfort. He was looking for invisibility. He was waiting for the laughter to stop, hoping that if he stayed quiet enough, the predators would lose interest. And in that silence, I saw it. The invisible chain wrapping around his neck, the same chain I'd worn for 29 years, the chain that taught me to be quiet, to be convenient, to swallow my anger so I didn't disturb the peace. I was watching my son learn the fawn response in real time. He was learning that his pain was a joke to the people who were supposed to love him. He was learning that his job was to smile through humiliation so the adults wouldn't be uncomfortable. He was learning to be me. The realization hit like a physical blow, colder than the lake outside. I wasn't just watching him get bullied. I was watching him inherit my trauma. If I didn't break that chain right now, in this exact second, he would carry it for the rest of his life. I looked at my father, Walter. He sat at the head of the table, hands folded over his empty plate, face carved from stone. But I knew him. I saw the way his knuckles had turned white gripping his fork. I saw the muscle in his jaw jump. I stood up. The chair scraped loudly against the wood floor, a harsh grinding sound that cut through the laughter. I walked around the table and stood directly between Vanessa and Ethan, using my body as a shield. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel the urge to fix anything. I didn't feel the need to smooth over the edges or crack a joke to lighten the mood. I felt the cold, hard clarity of a bridge catching fire. It wasn't rage. It was accounting. I was done paying interest on a debt I never owed. "You enjoyed that," I said. My voice wasn't loud. It was flat, clinical. "You enjoyed watching a 6-year-old create something, and you enjoyed destroying it." Vanessa rolled her eyes, pouring herself another glass from the bottle on the sideboard. "Oh, Megan, don't be so dramatic. It's paper. I did him a favor. Now he can learn to do something useful instead of making messes." "Useful," I repeated. The word tasted like iron in my mouth. "Like you're so useful, Vanessa? Living off Mom and Dad's money while pretending to be an influencer? At least Ethan actually creates something. You just destroy things. Starting with any respect I ever had for you." The room went dead silent. Vanessa's smirk faltered, her glass pausing halfway to her lips. My mother gasped. I didn't blink. I wasn't the sous chef anymore, managing tickets and keeping the kitchen calm. I was a mother watching a predator, and I was done negotiating. Before I could say more, my mother, Patricia, rushed into the scene. But she didn't go to Ethan. She didn't hug the crying child. She grabbed a handful of napkins and started frantically wiping the wine off the table. "Oh, Vanessa, you're so clumsy," she chirped, her voice high and tight. She was scrubbing the wood, ignoring the ruined painting completely. "Megan, don't make a face. It was an accident. We can buy him a coloring book, a nice one, with stickers." She looked up, smile stretched too thin. "Let's just have a nice dinner, please. It's Labor Day. We're family." I watched her, and the pity I usually felt evaporated. My mother wasn't confused. She wasn't helpless. She was an addict, addicted to the illusion of a happy family, willing to pay any price to keep it. But she never paid the price herself. She taxed us. She taxed the quiet children, the ones who wouldn't scream. She sacrificed our dignity to appease the monster because Vanessa was the only one who threatened to burn the house down. Patricia would let Ethan bleed just to keep the carpet clean. "No," I said. The word landed like a hammer. Everyone stared at me. "I'm not doing this anymore." I reached into my bag on the floor beside my chair and pulled out a manila folder. I'd brought it as insurance, hoping I wouldn't need it, knowing I probably would. "What's that?" Patricia asked, her voice shaky. 3 months ago, I started noticing discrepancies in the family accounts. Dad had mentioned the retirement fund was lower than expected. I'd always been the one who helped him organize his quarterly statements, so I had login access to the retirement portal. I asked questions. I pulled records. I looked at Vanessa. I found answers. A suspicious 6-figure payment to a personal injury attorney led me down a rabbit hole of court filings and settlement documents. Vanessa's face went pale. "You had no right." "I had every right. You've been stealing from this family for years, and Mom's been helping you cover it up." My father stood up slowly, like an old building finally giving way. He walked to the mantel where a rustic wooden sign hung. "Family is forever," painted in cursive. He stared at it, then turned to Patricia. "Megan came to me 2 weeks ago," he said. "She showed me everything, the transfers, the cover-ups." His voice dropped to a dangerous rumble. "The hit and run." Patricia made a strangled noise. "You knew?" Vanessa hissed at me. "You've known for 2 weeks and you just sat there." "I was waiting," I said. "Waiting to see if you'd show me you were capable of basic human decency. Waiting to see if Mom would finally protect someone besides you." I looked at the wine stain on Ethan's painting. "You answered that question about 5 minutes ago." Dad reached into his back pocket and pulled out folded documents. 3 years ago, Vanessa drove home drunk from a party. She hit a parked car, and then she hit a pedestrian, a 19-year-old girl walking her dog. He looked at Patricia, his eyes burning. "You took $174,000 from our retirement to bury it. Lawyers, settlements, hush money. You told me it was a parking dispute." Vanessa tried to rally. "It was an accident. Mom helped me because that's what mothers do." "Mothers protect their children," I cut in. "All their children, not just the loud ones, not just the ones who threaten to make scenes." I picked up Ethan's ruined painting, wine dripping from the edges. "You protected a 33-year-old woman who just destroyed a 6-year-old's artwork for fun. That's not motherhood. That's hostage negotiation." Dad placed the documents on the table. "This cabin is in my name. It was my inheritance. Your mother's name isn't on the deed." He looked at Patricia and Vanessa. "You have 1 hour to leave." "You can't kick us out," Patricia wailed. "It's pouring rain. Where will we go?" "Maybe you can stay with the daughter you invested so much in," Dad said. Vanessa grabbed her phone, fingers flying across the screen. She tapped her banking app. I watched her face crumble, color draining away, leaving her gray and small. "It's declined," she whispered. "I froze the accounts this morning," I said. "After I filed the fraud report with the bank, Dad signed the paperwork. Everything's locked pending investigation." Vanessa stared at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before. Fear. Real fear. The fear of someone who'd just realized the safety net was gone. "Your power was rented, Vanessa," Dad said, "and the landlord is closing the building." He walked to the front door and opened it wide. Rain poured down in sheets, turning the dirt driveway to mud. Vanessa looked at Uncle Ray. He looked away, suddenly fascinated by the floorboards. She looked at Patricia, who was just weeping, useless and broken. Finally, she looked at me. "Megan," she pleaded, voice trembling. "Tell him he's crazy. You can't let him do this to me. I'm your sister." I looked at her. I looked at the woman who had terrorized me for 3 decades. I looked at the wine stain still dripping from Ethan's painting. "You should hurry," I said. "Traffic's going to be terrible." 6 months later, the light in the new apartment was different. It wasn't the dim yellow of the cabin or the harsh fluorescent glare of the old family house. It was white and clean, streaming through big windows overlooking the city park. The place was smaller than the house Dad had shared with Patricia for 40 years, but it was peaceful. No walking on eggshells. No heavy sighs from the other room signaling an incoming guilt trip. No fear of the next explosion. I sat on the floor, leaning against the wall, watching them. Dad was kneeling next to Ethan on a drop cloth. They were covered in sawdust. He was teaching Ethan how to use a miter box to cut wood for a custom canvas frame. "You have to measure twice, Ethan," Dad said, his voice gentle, patient. The voice of a man who no longer had to shout to be heard. "Precision matters. If the frame is strong, the art is safe." "Like this, Grandpa?" "Exactly like that." Patricia was living in a small condo 2 towns over. She sent letters sometimes, long, rambling tirades on expensive stationery, blaming us for ruining the family image, for embarrassing her at church. I burned them without reading past the first line. She was still trying to tax us for a piece that didn't exist, but we'd stopped paying. Vanessa was working retail at a mall kiosk selling phone cases. The fraud investigation had resulted in formal charges, and her court date was set for spring. The statute of limitations had run out on the hit and run, but the financial crimes hadn't. She'd had to sell her car, move into a studio apartment. For the first time in 33 years, she was facing reality without a safety net. The fall had been hard. Uncle Ray called once about a month after that night to apologize for staying silent. We weren't close, but I accepted it. My cousin, who'd smirked at Ethan's humiliation, had the sense to stay away entirely. I looked at my son. He wasn't flinching anymore. He wasn't hiding under the table. He was making a mess with glue and wood, laughing when he spilled a little on the floor. He didn't freeze. He just grabbed a rag and wiped it up, knowing no one was going to scream at him. The price of this peace had been high. We had to break the family to save the people. We had to burn down the structure to save the foundation. Looking at my father's relaxed shoulders, looking at my son's easy, unburdened smile. It was the best bargain I ever made. If you've ever had to break a bond to save yourself, type freedom in the comments. Let's remind each other that we made the right choice. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, 0 cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.